Good morning and welcome to First Baptist Church in Cranbrook, BC. You might not be in Cranbrook, but I am. And so glad you could join us here this morning for our online service. Not much in the way of announcements this week. Some of you who signed up for the art group's lino cutting Easter recollection project that they're doing, thanks for doing that. You probably got your pack delivered to you so that you can be making your art project with your instructions and everything. So we're looking forward to how that goes. And if you didn't get a chance to participate in this, this is likely something that we'll try to do again in the future. Just we had good response from it. So if you missed your chance this time, don't worry, it'll come back around again, so you can keep your ears peeled for that. So thanks to the art group for spearheading this and making it happen. And we look forward to the outcome of it, which we hope to have done by Pentecost, which now that I'm saying that, I'm not sure when that is. I feel like it's May 23rd, but I could be wrong. Anyways, that's the plan, so look forward to that. Yeah, that's all I have for announcements. So let's move to our call to worship this morning. Jesus, the man of joy. A lot of times he's known as the man of sorrows, but a book that Jack Lindquist gave me a long time ago entitled Jesus, Man of Joy is something we want to focus on today, this morning, as we do this. And he declares to his followers these words: "As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete." As we light our Christ candle this morning, we can be reminded by this dancing flame of the joy and exuberance that Jesus has for you and for I. I'm going to invite you to read with me Psalm 100. Actually, it's going to be a call and response. So I'll read the white and you read the yellow. And I'll try my best to pause long enough for you to read your part, okay? But this comes from Psalm 100. It says, "Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs." Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. Amen. Let's worship the Lord with joy and gladness together this morning.
spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Lord, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah, yeah.
Our prayer time today will have a shape to it. We'll start with prayer that we offer from kind of a personal level, personal space. And then we'll move to a prayer for those around us, our family, our friends, neighbors, even enemies. And then we'll pray for our world, the global world, our city, our country, whatever things are on your heart. So I'm going to be leaving some pauses for you to participate in our prayer, because it's better when we're all praying. Jesus invites us all to share our hearts before him and bring that stuff that's of concern to us to him. And so we'll all have space to do that this morning. And so in those spaces, each one kind of focus first on prayers that you want to offer about what's going on inside of you. And then the second pause, pray for what's going on in the lives of people around you. And then the third pause, pray for things that are going on in our world. Okay, so that's the kind of shape of our prayer this morning. And we're going to close by saying the Lord's Prayer. So when you hear me start into that, join with me, please. But let's pray. Gracious God, you have searched us out and have found us, as the Good Shepherd searches for the one lost sheep. You love us and take joy in us. Today, as we meet with you in this time, we come with all that has happened in our lives, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Lord, none of this is hidden from you, though we might try and hide it from others and ourselves. May our posture before you be open and obedient. Help us, Lord, to be open to your loving appraisal of our lives. Holy Spirit, would you fan into flame those things that are from you, that make us who we really are? And let joy come in those moments. Holy Spirit, would you bring conviction to our hearts to act in ways that are just and full of compassion? Confront the temptations and distortions in our lives, those things that wound and tear us down. Let the resurrection work of your kingdom be an active reality in our hearts. And so, Lord, in these moments, speak to us. Loving God, you created humans in your image to experience and express the communal, loving nature of yourself. As we know from Scripture, history, and from the years we have been alive, we humans have royally missed the mark on that one. We have strife between us that puts us at odds with one another. We also have experiences of hurt because of our love for others when we see them sick or afflicted in some way. Lord Jesus, we lift up to you our situations with family and neighbors, with friends and enemies, and we ask you to heal and mend and restore. King of Kings. All that is belongs to you. You made it all and declared it good. King Jesus, we confess that as your stewards, we humans have taken many liberties and lived as though we were the king and not you. As we hear reports from around the world, it's easy to become overwhelmed with the hurt and destruction that takes place. Lord, we're at war with each other. We try to cheat and oppress those who have less power than us. We desecrate and destroy the earth that you gave us, and it groans in expectation of your return to save it. Lord, in this time, we now pray to you on behalf of this world. Bring your peace. Lord, strengthen your church that we might be that tree planted by the water whose leaves are for the healing of the nations. May we pound our destructive weapons into tools for planting and harvesting. Friends, please offer prayers for the things on your heart that you desire to pray about for our world. And let's close by saying the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Hey everyone, welcome to First Baptist Church. You can see we're here live on location. This will be recorded, so it won't actually be live for you. But we just wanted to start off our series on Covenant of Fellowship and thought that we'd talk about some things on location. The sign is here, the building is here, but little did we know the church, you the people, are not here. And so I want to talk about that just for a little bit. Before that, a question. Do you like guacamole?
Yes.
Matt, you like guacamole?
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
We're going to get to that later. Stay tuned. This location where the church has been here for 61 years. So over 61 years, the church has been on location. It's had a couple facelifts, recently some new windows. We redid those windows, some additions to it, but the church has been here for 61 years in structure. And it's also been in town for over 100 years. Over 100 years, First Baptist has been in town here. And it's had good times, it's had bad times. It's had a lot of different things go on in its life. It's been sustained by God. God has sustained his people here. And as I said, in about mid-1990, the Covenant of Fellowship, which we emailed out this week, was drafted in its form. There were other things that kept this fellowship together over the years, but one thing that the Covenant of Fellowship tried to do was really establish some foundations upon which the church would be built. And again, in order to have a good foundation to build a church, you need good footings, you need good cement, you need all the right ground in order for something to be built. And so that's the same way that the Covenant of Fellowship was sort of put into place in a divisive time. And so, as I said before, there are other things that sustained it prior to that point, but the covenant really tried to do some good things. And it's not a document that we're trying to send to the official Canadian Baptist of Western Canada president and get him to sign off on. It's something internally that we have developed, that was developed by Bob Jones, and that we really wanted to bring to attention, especially during this time. I'm gonna let this motorcycle go by. That's a loud one, Matt. And the covenant was specifically written to the membership. It was written to the membership as a means of, Pastor Aaron just went by, as a means to have the membership sort of know what they were about. Hence, in the first line of the covenant of the fellowship, it says this: having embraced Christ as God my Savior by faith, through the empowering of His Spirit, and having embraced these His brothers and sisters as my own, I, by God's grace, agree to learn and practice these expressions of His love. That statement is loaded with connection. Embraced and embracing Christ as Savior. Embraced and embracing by my brothers and sisters. Embraced and embracing by God's grace practices and expressions of His love. Embraced and embracing. Very relational language, very intentional language. It's totally intentional as it pertains to the statement. It's not written to people who have one foot in the door and one foot out. And that's always a very interesting predicament to be in if you're one foot in the door and one foot out, because usually either the door's going to hit you or somebody's going to hit you, and it's not going to feel good. It's not written as a general appeal to people to live a better life. It's written to say to people, do you believe in what God is doing in this place with His people? Do you believe in what God is doing in this place and with His people? If so, enter in. If so, take up what these points of the covenant are calling you to do. Take them up and let them continue to help foster what God is doing. So you recognize your calling, you recognize your responsibility, and you recognize your opportunity to be part of a local body. And as I said before, membership is sort of the step into that. And yeah, there's a little bit of a pause there, because when I talk about membership with people, usually people who aren't members, because people who are members, we talk about different things about it. But when I talk about membership with people, and converse with them, sometimes they have certain statements they'll come back with, certain things that they'll say. They say something like, it doesn't talk about membership in the Bible. We don't see the word in the Bible. And I would respond with, indirectly, it says many things about the people who were committed to the church at the time, to the way. Many of the New Testament epistles were written in such a way that the people who knew they belonged to the church were going to follow these things. And although it was an official membership, people knew who those people were and why they were committed to these things. People would say, membership, it's another step of commitment. Why do I need this step of commitment? And I would ask them, is commitment really that bad? Natasha Parich going to her other job, it's a full meal deal. People might say, well, it's a commitment, and I don't want to take that step of commitment. They might ask me to deepen, people of the church might ask me to deepen my walk, or they might ask me tough questions, or expect me to participate in church life in a different way, and in church in a more intrinsic way to what's going on there. And I would say, yeah, it's about commitment, and stepping into commitment and stepping into a healthier relationship, either to the people you belong to or people back to you and to yourself. That's a good step to take. To become healthy and more healthy is a good step to take, especially in your faith. They might also say something like, there's too much politics in the church. I don't want to become a member because there's too much politics in the church. And most often, I would say that it's within churches who put membership before fellowship of Jesus and the Spirit and the Father. That's when there's more politics. When people put something before following Jesus, listening to the Spirit, trusting in the Father, then politics will abound. They usually get distracted. They might say in the last one, I was a member of another church, and it was a very bad experience. And I would say, right, yeah, you're probably right. I don't know your experience at another church. I know what First Baptist Church is about, and I know the people who are on the board, and I know the leadership here, and that's what I'm asking you into, is membership in our church, or a deepened commitment in our church, not back into your other church or a different church. So anyways, just some little stuff around membership there. If you've been thinking about it, or people are wondering why this covenant is to membership specifically, those committed, it has to do with people entering into that commitment. So all that to say, when I talk about membership and I talk about people stepping up and stepping in, it's because they look at FBCC and see that it is not a building or a sign or an address. It is a place where God is doing something for the kingdom, and they want to belong to that. They want to become part of a people that keep each other encouraged and accountable. They want to say, having embraced Christ as God my Savior by faith, through the empowering of His Spirit, and having embraced these His brothers and sisters as my own, I, by God's grace, agree to learn and practice these expressions of His love. That is the beginning of the covenant there. So, anyways, just a little preamble, a little talking around membership, a little talking around the covenant. But we're going to head off and go make some guacamole and continue on with one of the points, okay? So join me, stay tuned. We'll see you after this song, okay?
You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep, my faith will stand. Keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Your grace abounds in deepest waters. Your sovereign hand will be my guide. Where feet may fail and fear surrounds me, you never fail, and you won't stop now. And I will call upon your name, and keep my eyes above the waves. Oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace.
Hey, welcome to my kitchen. Literally, we are in my kitchen, our house here. We renovated the kitchen when I moved back into the house I grew up in, and we have this great big huge island. Actually, when they were bringing in the top for the island, they said you could have a family reunion around this sucker. And we built it specifically so we could have engagement with our kids when they're grown up and everybody, and we have people over so they can sort of stand and be here. So we're gonna get to guacamole in just a little bit. As you can see, we have all the ingredients right here. Everybody should cook with a bobblehead. Go from there. But I just want to clarify some little things about the intro that we did at the church. So first of all, there's a lot of distraction going on. I'll admit that. I've never seen so many people I know drive by at that time of day. And second of all, with membership, even though I said this covenant was sort of developed for membership, I believe that if you enter into the covenant, you enter into what it's saying and whatever, you're entering into a way of life that actually is conducive, is the way to build your life in a church fellowship. And under our denomination, under our church, sort of the way we were set up, the membership is sort of that step into that, and that's why they're sort of combined. So anyways, a little bit with the covenant of fellowship. When we preach through this series, there's 7 points, and we're not going to follow them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to mix them up a little bit. Aaron's going to be doing some of the preaching. Pastor Bob Jones is going to be doing some of the preaching, and we're going to have a Zoom interaction one. So we're really trying to be creative with this, and we thank you for joining along. The point that I'm going to speak about today around this is point number 5. And point number 5 says, I will joyfully participate in the worship and ministries of FBC, using the gifts and grace God has given me, not for self-promotion or self-fulfillment, but for building up the body of Christ, and to the honor and praise of God. And attached with those are Hebrews 10:25 and 1 Peter 4 verses 10 and 11. We're going to look at that a little bit more. But at the get-go, let me just highlight some key points. One is, in that statement, there is, I will joyfully participate. I will joyfully participate. It also says, using the gifts and grace God has given me. God is a giver of good gifts, and God is a giver of grace to us, and it's for the building up. So we look at this statement that there's joy involved, that there's gifts, there's grace, and there's building up. That seems like a posture of goodness and deep camaraderie. That seems like a really good foundation to take who you are, or who God has created you to be, and shape it with those around you for a much greater purpose. To take who you are, who God has created you to be, and share it with others. Share it with those around you. Let it seep into you and seep into others as you joyfully participate in ministries and your gifts are used and that sort of thing. So, seems like that's a good thing for a greater purpose. We'll get back to that. Have you ever made guacamole? Have you ever made guacamole? When we have friends over, usually what's happening is I'm preparing a meal or whatever, and I'll usually set out appetizers on our island so that when people come in, they can gather around and partake. Some of our really good friends, the Amsings, their daughter Yolanda, the first thing she does when she comes in the door, she comes right up here and she stands right across the island from me, and she sort of looks around, and she's looking around for the appetizers I've created. The other day, I had planned appetizers to be a bit later, and she came up here and she had a scowl on her face and she says, "Where is it? Where are they?" And I had to laugh because I knew exactly what she was talking about. And I said, "Just wait, it's coming." So I love making food. I love making food with people. I love making food for people. And so we're actually going to make some guacamole here. In order to make guacamole, you need avocados. The painful thing with getting avocados now, when you go to the grocery stores, usually you feel them to see if they're nice and soft. But as you're feeling a bunch of avocados, people are looking at you like, why are you touching all the food? Because there's signs around that say that you shouldn't do this. So, anyways, I touched a lot of avocados and got a lot of dirty looks this morning when I was at Safeway. Avocados are a beautiful, beautiful, are they a fruit or a vegetable, Matt?
Fruit.
Fruit?
Technically.
Fruit, technically?
That's my best uneducated guess.
Okay. So what we do is we got to core out the avocados and then we put them in a bowl. If you don't like cooking and you don't like what we're doing here, you need to just grin and bear it for a while, I think, because if you skip ahead, you'll miss this beautiful illustration. So we're just coring these suckers out. I hope that I won't cut myself today, as I usually cut myself when I cook. Why? Because I'm talking to people and distracted while I'm doing this. Nothing like I'm doing right now. So we're just coring out these avocados. I like to dice them up like this. Other people like to mash them and put them in a bowl. You know, lots of good stuff there. So avocados. We also need some limes. Oh, you know what I forgot? I always forget this stuff. But when you're working with food, you need to take proper precautions. So citrus, you need safety glasses. Okay, and also to protect yourself and your clothing, you should always wear an apron. And so my family was so great to me. They got me this apron, which I like to wear. So we're gonna put that on, and Natasha said your hair is getting long, and she said some other adjectives with my hair being long. So we're gonna get a hairnet here. I actually went to the church to get a hairnet, and Natasha said we had shower caps, but I thought this was better. So I think this will keep. What do you think, Matt?
You look awesome.
Okay, we're moving on.
Natasha thought your hair was getting long.
That's funny, eh?
It's there.
I said, go see Matt for a while. So we're coring out the avocados. We need limes. I like to put a little green onion. You'll see in my guacamole. I like to put homemade salsa. We make our homemade salsa. I put a little bit of that in there. We got some sour cream. Go from there. Limes. If you see limes, they're like this. These are not good limes. That could even damage the bobblehead. You want nice and soft ones. So get our avocado in there. We get our limes. I'm just going to squish some lime juice in there. See, safety glasses. Makes things nice. Put some lime, and usually it's sort of you taste as you go, but I like to put about almost a whole lime in there. Garlic. We grow our own garlic. I love growing garlic. It's amazing what you put in the winter, and then all of a sudden in the spring, you have all these things popping up when you think nothing is growing underneath the ground. It's another great illustration for you in terms of stuff. The seeds fall to the ground and they multiply as they grow and bear more seeds. I put about 2 garlic cloves in my guacamole to about 1.5 to 2 avocados because I like garlic. Some people don't like garlic, and so we're just gonna mash that up in there. I'm gonna take another one here. And if this takes too long, you know what Matt ends up doing? He ends up editing it. He'll just edit stuff out. I don't think it's taken too long though. I'm working at this. So there's some more garlic. Put that in there. I like to put sour cream. Oh, and hot sauce. I usually use Tabasco. That was a note from Jim Nickel. Jim, who also likes to make his own guacamole, got me onto that. And it's just a nice flavor. Adds a little zip. One of the things I really like about guacamole is, like, as much as there's a recipe, you can be so creative with it. Sometimes we sub out some things and we'll put in mango, that sort of thing. All sorts of different things. All sorts of very different things you can put in guacamole. And usually, if it's sort of working in the general direction, it turns out to be really nice. It's kind of a hard thing to screw up if you got a basic recipe. And I oftentimes think about what that's like in life when you gather with people, and although things look a little bit different all the time, it's really hard to screw it up if you sort of have the same thing that you're sort of working towards. And that's a very important thing. I need more spoons. I always need more spoons, Matt. If I was doing this by myself, I might just use the same spoon and lick it all the time and put it back in. Just kidding. Who would do that? So I'm just adding all this stuff together, and a little bit of salsa, salt and pepper, and then that's a lot. I'll just go like that. There. That's good. And pepper. Christmas gifts from Natasha. She knows me. She likes me. So you get this all together. And the funny thing is if you're to look at that, so there's all these different ingredients in there. And as you mix it up, it doesn't usually form a really nice color. It forms like a color where it's like, should you eat that? That's sort of green, brownish a little bit at times, got some red in there, and it doesn't look too appetizing whatsoever. But what you find out, if you like garlic and avocados and all this other stuff, is that it's just a beautiful, beautiful appetizer, beautiful thing to put on. We put it on burgers, we put it on all sorts of things, taco chips for sure. So I'm going to just sort of mix this up and let it sit for a bit, and I take off these funky safety glasses, and I don't think I need my hair hat anymore. So we'll get back to that. But that's basic guacamole. And trick, Matt and I were talking about this, if you take an avocado seed and you put it in there, it doesn't brown as quick. Some people in the office didn't believe that. We won't
I
name
didn't
them.
know. I was surprised. But
Were you?
It's legit.
It's legit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna take that off. Not using citrus anymore. Take that off. So we're going to try this in just a bit. But what we did there is take a whole bunch of different things and put them together to make something quite beautiful, and that works with each other. The flavors work with each other, so that when you have it, although you can taste different things, it's something much different than you started with in each component. Let's return to our covenant of fellowship. It says in point 5, I will joyfully participate in the worship and ministries of First Baptist Church, using the gifts and the abilities and grace God has given me, not for self-promotion or self-fulfillment, but for building up of the body of Christ and to the honor and praise of God. It's a good statement. In that statement, it's referenced Hebrews 10:25. Hebrews 10:25 says, let us not give up meeting together. Some are in the habit of doing this. Instead, let us encourage one another with words of hope. Let us not do this. Let us do this even more as you see Christ's return. And so I butchered that, so I'm just going to say it again. Let us not give up meeting together. Some are in the habit of doing this. Instead, let us encourage one another with words of hope. Let us do this even more as you see Christ's return approaching. We're not meeting together because there's a pandemic going on. We're not meeting together and have been restricted by public health authorities, and we're taking that seriously and into consideration. We've respected the closures and these type of things. But it's interesting that in Hebrews 10:25, well before a pandemic, COVID was going on, it says some were in the habit of doing this. They stopped meeting together. I asked in the office what were 10 reasons why people actually chose not to meet together. And these are in no specific order, but these are 10 reasons why people choose not to meet together. We just came up with 10. 1, they're busy. They have no time. They're busy and they have no time. People are just busy and they don't have time to meet together. 2, personal family time is put over church family time. So say you're having a busy week, or it's a rough week with the kids, or you worked a lot or whatever, you say, come Sunday morning, it's like, let's just stay and be a family. Let's not go to church, let's just stay home and be as a family. There's some credit to that, but if that's the modus operandi all the time, and you choose to do that all the time, you stop meeting together. 3, there are more enjoyable things to do. There's fishing, there's hiking, there's skiing, there's camping, there's origami. There's all sorts of different things that people choose to do other than church, other than gathering together, other than fellowshipping together. 4, church is not as important as other things that could be done on that Sunday. So not that there's more enjoyable things to do, but there's more important things to do. I have yard work to do. I have a little extra work because if I get this contract in, I can make this money. I haven't seen these people in a while, and they're pretty important, so I should go see them instead of gathering with people. And again, I'm trying to keep this outside of the specific Sunday morning, but maybe it's just church in general, being involved in a small group or being involved in the ministries and worship of First Baptist. 5, it's a waste of time because it doesn't change anything anyways. Nothing ever. I go to church all this time, hasn't changed me. I'm still an angry person.
I don't know what that looks like in your life, but it's like there's a lot of people who just sort of say like, it didn't do anything for me. Yeah, there's sort of two parties involved in that. There's a give, there's a take, there's a relationship that exists, and sometimes when you go all the time seeking something or with expectations, it's like, yeah, I can see why you don't get anything out of it. I can see why in your self-promotion or your self-centeredness, that doesn't change. You're probably not watching. If you're that person, you're probably not watching anyways because you stopped going to church a long time ago or being involved in it. 6, there are people there I don't like. There are people there that I don't like. Or it makes me feel uncomfortable being around certain types of people. This is a reason. People stop meeting together. I don't want to be with those people. Or I know something about those people and I can't believe they attend church. And it's like, yeah, there's lots there. And I could see, in the early church, there was a lot of reasons why people would look at other people and say, they're either unclean, or why are they attending, or why are they allowed to participate in this worship or this meal or whatever. Very interesting. 7, the leaders suck. I mean, I don't necessarily connect with the pastor or the worship leaders or the things that go on there. It's just not for me. They're just not, the songs, he's so boring when he preaches. Never does anything like a part-time cooking show or anything like that. Like, just boring. I don't know what it is, but I've heard that before. People come and say, we left this church because of X, Y, or Z in terms of leadership or in terms of preference. They choose to stop meeting together. And they'll find something about First Baptist Church that they'll just be like, yeah, I don't agree with that either. I don't like that either. 8, there are things that I don't agree with in the statements of faith. And maybe not the statement of faith, but maybe a pet theology that's going on there. Oh, they have, this is still the one that exists. And it dumbfounds me, but it's like they still have women in leadership. And people are like, why? Like it says in the Bible, women shouldn't speak and stuff like this. And our church has worked through that a long time ago. And we believe in women in leadership. And we've had Pastor Natasha work through being a pastor. And we have elders who are women, and we have speakers who are women. And it's like, that's a non-issue for us. But some people, that still might be an issue for them, a pet issue. 9. I have not found any connection and community there. And again, that may be true, but oftentimes that's a two-way street as well. Community and involvement in community, oftentimes it's as much as you give, you get to receive as well. And people will come to church and they'll sit by themselves and they won't say hello or they won't whatever, and they feel like nobody's talked to them, and yet they haven't talked to anybody. And in the early church, you could see with all the different stuff going on with the mixes of races and people and classes and stuff like that, you could see how people would feel like, I'm just not connecting. This is just not, I feel ostracized, whatever it might be. 10, I'm openly leading a life that includes sin, and I don't want it to be in a place I don't want to be in a place that convicts me or reminds me of what I'm doing. So we're talking about this in the office, how people who are just sort of, it's maybe a hypocritical stance where I go and do this and I know it's wrong, but if I attend church, I'll really feel bad about it. So I just will stop going to church. And there's all those reasons. And there's a list of them, and there's even more out there. And Hebrews is simple and clear on the point that there were people in the early church that chose not to meet together. Some of the reasons I presented would have been reasons that they would have had as well. Reasons to not meet together. Regardless, people who had committed themselves to Christ, to the gospel, who had stepped into baptism, who had desired this new way of life, they were the ones who didn't stop meeting together. There was something there that sort of said, there's something more to be had. And that's why Hebrews encourages them to not stop meeting together, as some have done. You know the truth about this fellowship and what it can do, so continue on, persevere, endure. Here's the kicker for us, as I've said. We have been forced to stop meeting in some forms. Large group gatherings, and in other forms we haven't been. We could meet outside, we could, small groups as support groups and these type of things. And so listen to what Eugene Peterson says, because I want to hold that, I want to suspend that thought for a minute that sort of says whether we can continue to meet and whether we're longing for large group gatherings. I want to listen to what Eugene Peterson says. He says in the same verse, in the Message paraphrase, let's see how inventive we can be in encouraging love and helping out, not avoiding worshiping together, as some do, but spurring each other on, especially as we see the big day approaching. Let's see how inventive we can be. Let's make something up that'll taste really good, because we know the components that we need to make that good. Worshiping together during COVID has challenged us in this area. It's challenged people to use Zoom. It's challenged people to sort of set up lawn chairs in a park. It's challenged people to say, if we can't meet indoors. And some people, you know what they've simply done? Stop meeting together. They've stopped even trying to be inventive. They've stopped even engaging some form of community worship, a small community, or fellowship or ministry. Just stopped. There's an excuse there. And sure, there's COVID and you could blame that. But there's something underlying that sort of says, what were you really after? I've seen and heard people be inventive and creative in continuing to meet together. So bless you who have done that. More and more, we actually need to be creative in how we encourage and spur one another on, and in how we meet and how we worship. This is a major thing that we were talking about in the office right now and with the elders, is what does church look like moving ahead? And not church as in the building and the sign in that place on 4th and 14th, but the worship and the ministry together with collectives of the people of God, or gathered peoples. How does it change? How does it look different? How are we going to be inventive? The second passage that goes along with this, just in brief, is this. In 1 Peter 4:10, it says, each of you, who does that include? Does that include everybody or just certain people? Each is everybody. Of you should use whatever gifts you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the words of God, the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides them, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. And let's not just say that that's about speaking and serving, like those are the only two things. What Peter is drawing to attention here is that at some point, whatever you're doing, believe that God is involved in it. Believe that God has given you the capacities and the gifts and the abilities to do this. The verse is essentially saying that by using your gifts, you are stewarding God's various forms of grace. Did you catch that? By using your gifts and participating in the body in different ways, you are using and stewarding God's various forms of grace. As you share your gifts and abilities with each other in the church, and I would add outside of the church, as well, you are taking God's grace and putting it into the laps of others so that they might receive it. Isn't that a beautiful picture? Imagine like grandma sitting on the couch and daughter comes with newborn, and so there's the newborn and there's the grandma and there's the mom, and mom takes this beautiful, beautiful, precious baby and brings it over to grandma and grandpa. And grandma and grandpa can't do much anymore because they spent too much time water skiing in their younger years or whatever it is. And they're tired. And they receive that little baby, that gift, that beautiful, and think of what stirs in their hearts. Life and something more. And I think that's a good picture for us when we use our gifts and abilities, that we're essentially bringing something, the gifts of grace and goodness and all these things, and putting them in laps of people, fellow believers and even people who don't know God yet, and saying, this is how God has made me, these are my gifts, and I want to share these with you. I want to share words, I want to serve, I want to sacrifice so that you can receive those, and that becomes beautiful. This is not a complicated thing. It's not a process too difficult that we shouldn't try it. It is simply being willing to pay attention to your life in God and how God prompts you. And as that prompting increases and people receive your gifts in grace and mercy, it builds up the body. You may very well go through a time of discovering your gifts, of honing them, of refining them. You may have to go through a time where you try certain things and think, maybe this is what God is desiring me to do. And you exercise it in your small group or with your fellow believers, and they say, what are you doing? That seems really awkward for you. And it's like, it's abrasive or we don't know what you're doing or why you're trying this. You might have to ask good questions like, do you see a gift in me? Do you see something that God has graced me with, that when I do it, it speaks of God's grace? There might be things there, but the church has stopped doing this. The church, and there are inventories and there are spiritual gift stuff and whatever, but it's stopped trying to offer to each other the uniquenesses and capacities and inspired things that God has placed within us. It's relegated, it's left, we'll let these people do these things, we'll get our fix from these things, and we'll stop being that community together, that fellowship together. What would it look like to joyfully, intentionally, and inventively enter into pockets of First Baptist Church Cranbrook on a small scale or a large scale, with your very personality, your talents and your gifts, to worship and help others in worship and grow in worship, to encourage, to selflessly give, to sacrificially help, to humbly and wonderfully inspire others? What would it look like to joyfully, intentionally, inventively do that? To sort of say, I believe in this community. I believe in these people. I want to offer who I am, and I want to receive from others who I am. I want to participate, not for me, but because God's glory and His goodness and grace will do something amazing here. I want to be part of a community where people do that. I want to be part of that. And I think the irony in all this message is it's simply there. I shouldn't have to sort of preach about this, talk about this, be creative with this. This is just what is there for the people of God to partake in. And it's a choice whether you do or you don't. It's a choice whether you risk and you try and you're challenged to do something with your life for others, or you don't. And when you don't, being on the outside looking in, if you've ever done that, sort of watching somebody make beautiful guacamole and never dip in a chip, whatever it might be, becomes something that part of the, maybe all of the onus is that's your responsibility. God's not going to lift you off your chair and levitate you into community and exercise your gifts without your own free will and sort of say, there, I've done it all for you. He's challenging us to be a people who, as it says, as we talked about, who will joyfully participate in worship and ministries of First Baptist Church, using the gifts and grace God has given us, not for self-promotion or self-fulfillment, but for building up of the body of Christ to the honor and praise of God. I'll end with this. Do you miss potlucks? I'm sure there's a lot of you that actually don't like potlucks, so maybe that's a bad one, but I miss potlucks. You know why I miss them? Partly because I'm always amazed at what people bring. I'm always amazed. Good at times, and others I'm always amazed and confused, but there's always just this whole big table spread with different things that people have decided to make, decided to put their hands to use with, and then offer them to others. And then we get to partake together. We get to eat a little bit of this and a little bit of that and talk around all this food. We can't and haven't met for a potluck in over a year. That hasn't stopped me from cooking, and that hasn't stopped me from trying to make things and get them to people in different ways, whether that's freezing soups and giving them out, whether that's finding a picnic place outside and making guacamole here, and you can't be around my island, but we can go somewhere and do that. It hasn't stopped me doing something that I love. And may God inspire us to discern the things that He has done in our lives, inspired us, gifted us with, so that we would eagerly relish the chance to inventively and creatively exercise those in His body and commit to that fellowship, that covenant of fellowship that binds that and does something beautiful for that. So I'm going to take a spoon. I'm going to try this now, and I won't actually work through, if I don't like the taste, augmenting it, because I can do that when it's off camera. But you should always eat what you make, because then it proves that you like it or that it's okay. So, there's a lot of lime and a lot of garlic. It's good. A little more avocado. and a little more sour cream. But this is what we do. We participate and we see how it goes. Anyways, may you know how wonderful this opportunity is and engage it. Don't just be inspired by a message or inspired by a thought. Get involved. Ask some good questions. Contact leadership. It's a great thing. So have a great whatever time of day you're watching this into the next time of day that you're watching this. Okay? I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Come, let us praise Him. Let us kneel at the throne of our God. Through His Son, our salvation was bought with mercy and grace. Come, let us bow down. In His hands are the depths of the earth. With one voice we proclaim His great worth. Lord our God, and we will seek Him, our rock of salvation. Morning by morning, with thanksgiving we come, and we will bow down. With creation we cry out. Daylight and darkness, we sing to the Lord. Great is our God. Great is our God. Great is our God. The Lord of all nations, we will stand at the end of our days in your courts and declare your king ways in spirit and truth. We long for your kingdom. Bring your thunder and gather the earth. All who tremble will tell of your worth. Lord our God. Then we will seek Him, our rock of salvation. Morning by morning, with thanksgiving we come, and we will bow down. With creation we cry out. In daylight and darkness, we sing to the Lord, and we will seek Him, our rock of salvation. Morning by morning, with thanksgiving we come, and we will bow down. With creation we cry out. Daylight and darkness, we sing to the Lord. Great is our God. Great is our